Hey guys, welcome back. It's John with Addicted to Fishing. I just wanted to take a quick minute and put out a video while I was out in the river today. And I figured, why not do one while we're out? Because as you guys know, I'm in the process of still moving and the tackle room's not quite ready. But I figured, hey, while I got a little time, let's put out a video. So I wanted to go over with you guys probably the hottest technique out there in bass fishing today, and kind of talk about it a little bit more, give you my opinion. This is something that's caught fire. I've talked about it a couple times on my channel, but I've been doing this for a little while. We just didn't call it what you guys are calling it today, and that simply is hover strolling. Guys, I know I put out a couple videos. I can't tell you guys enough to get out there and start doing this. The misconception to me about this technique is that you have to have forward-facing sonar to do it, and it's made quite a bit of controversy. But guys, I don't have a boat, let alone forward-facing sonar, and I've been fishing this technique or similar technique for years. We just never called it strolling. I really didn't even know it kind of had a name. And for me, back in the day, this is the bait that started it for me. The Hazadong from Mega Bass. This is a 3-inch. A lot of people told me it's too lifelike and that it should be illegal to fish. If you guys don't know what the Hazadong is, that's the guy there. Sorry guys, I know it's a little low light situation. Normally I'm not coming off the water till it's a little bit darker, hence the reason why I haven't put out a few videos. Sometimes when that bite's good, you just don't want to get off the water. The other one that I used was the Spark Shad. Most of you guys are familiar with the Megabass stuff, but for those of you that aren't familiar, that's the Spark Shad. You can see that action in the tail. A lot of guys are going to try to say that this is the same thing as just working like a jig, and you know what, it pretty much is, except for there's some other stuff that you need to do to kind of get yourself a few more bites. With that said, I've got a few baits, nothing in particular order. These aren't my end-all say-all baits. I use the Hazadong still. I use the Spark Shad still. So with that said, we'll continue down. I think I laid out like 6 baits that I had with me tonight. And we'll go over these other ones as well. One that has been producing a lot for me lately. And again, most of these baits are sold or marketed to be with forward-facing sonar. But again, I've been using them for a while, these little minnow style baits, and I'll kind of circle back around and tell you what my opinion is with why these jig minnows are kind of getting a bad name. But anyway, this one's by Yum. It's a little sonar minnow, I believe. It's a 3-inch bait. Most of these are going to be in the 3-inch size. Some of them are a little bit smaller, some of them may be a little bit bigger, but I try to find stuff in the 3-inch range. This one they call Gizzard Shad. You can see it's got a little forked tail on the back, but it's got a flat top to it. This one's a laminate with some glitter color in it. Again, but guys, these are no particular order. Pretty much any minnow style bait that you have works for this technique. This is the power bait from Berkley. It's the Pro Series Twitch. It's a 3-inch, and this is in Fire Tiger. It's just a little straight pintail type bait. This one's by Nutbait. It's called the Little Spanky. It's a 3-inch paddle tail, so this is a little different. This fits kind of along the lines of the Spark Shad, but I'm fishing them a whole lot different. I could kind of show you some of that. Fishing them and rigging them different, because one of the baits that's in here you probably didn't think about or didn't see And these are all on the smaller side. Guys, you can definitely find 4, 5, 6, 7-inch baits that'll do the same thing. Another one, this one's made by Dr. Fish. They don't even give it really a name. It's just, I don't think they do. No, they don't give it a name. They just call it Almost Real Soft Bait. A lot of these JDM, CDM type baits don't really have a name, but this is a nice little cool bait too. It's a laminate with a little mylar in it. Great little bait fish imitator. Probably one I should have pulled out tonight and started throwing. And guys, if you notice too, I keep all these in their original package to try to keep these baits straight. Last one in this type of profile that I'm going to show you, one that you guys probably didn't think to use, and I've actually got one tied on. This one is by D1. It does not have a name either. It just says fishing with good bait. But this is a knockoff of the Jackal Drift Fry. It's a little lip bait. Got a little lip on it, little pintail bait. Do you see that little lip right there? And then the one that a lot of people probably have never thought about using, and this is the one that I started with years and years ago. I usually use it by either Zoom or sorry, there's some people walking around out here. Usually by Zoom or Yum. This one just happens to be by Lost Creek. They call this the 4-inch Twitch. Yep, and if you guessed it, it is a fluke style bait. Fluke style baits work really, really good. This again is in a 4-inch. Works really, really good with this technique. Of course, that dude's been soaking in bait fuel, so let me clean up my hands there a little bit. So guys, that's real quick a few of the baits that you can use. You don't want to sleep on this. Right now, this is really catching them for me. And right now, it's something that the fish in a lot of areas haven't seen. And as far as jig heads go, I'm using a few different things. For some of the bigger ones, I'm going with the Tush by Core Tackle. They call it the Ultimate Swim Bait Head. I got one rigged up, I'll show you in a minute. And then the one that really is meant for kind of this technique, this is again from Core Tackle. This is the Hover Rig. You can also just use a 90-degree bend hook and a nail weight. But don't be fooled, there's a bunch of different heads out there. Most of them are really hard to get right now. You can see this is just a ball head jig. Works really, really well. And this is by VMC. It's called the Boxer Head. Again, works really, really good. I like the line ties on these. All right, guys. So let me snap that box closed real quick. Put that away. It's just going to be kind of a quick video on the different types of baits and a few different heads that I'm using. And the reason why I picked these heads and these baits is because they're readily available. There's a few new heads that have come out recently that do really, really well. I just talked about that Core Tackle Tush, and I've been fishing this just as like a regular swim bait, but you can see that head goes all the way inside this bait. Now, if I'm gonna try to stroll with this, I'm not gonna rig it exactly like this, and I'm going to some of the smaller ones. But this keeps your bait more center balanced. Yeah, I know I didn't cut my tag end off on that either. But you're trying to keep these baits really centered. So when you're fishing them, they're really level. And then this is the one that I did the damage on tonight. just that regular old ball head, and this is that more like that Jackall drift fry. And if you look, a lot of the Japanese anglers have that hook more out like that, but it's just a pin style bait. It's got that lip, and if you notice, I didn't go quite through where they want you to go through. When I'm rigging these baits, I'm really just trying to skin hook it. This one I came up on top of the bait, and when you drift this through the water, it's really giving it a lot of that rolling motion, and that's what you're looking for, guys. That's giving you more of that Diam bait fish presentation. I do have that on a 7-foot medium light fast action, or an extra fast action is what you really need. This is the Bass Pro Shop Microlight. It's a 7-foot, and it rated from 1/16 to 3/8. 2000 series Shimano Sahara spinning reel. It's got 6-pound mono with a 15-pound braid backer to it. The other combo, I was fishing a chatterbait flashback mini on it. That's another bait you could throw, just a little minnow style bait. But this is my St. Croix Triumph. 6'7" medium light fast action, and it's rated from an 1/8 to 1/2 ounce. Again, 2000, or this is actually a 2500 series Shimano Miraval. Again, 6-pound mono, 10-pound braid backer. But the key, guys, when you're fishing this thing, and let me pull one of these rods out here. Let me back up a little bit. Part that's in a reel sleeve. But anyway, what you're doing once you cast it out is you're constantly shaking that rod. If you can see that, and it kind of helps with the glove. I know I'll get out a picture there, but you can see how I'm working that. And that's key. That's critical. And what you're doing is you're getting that bait. Let me pull out something here. I use a pair of needle nose pliers, something big and you can see. But what you're trying to do is, instead of getting that bait to just kind of swim through the column, and if it's got that paddle tail or boot tail on the back just to do that, you're wanting that bait to roll. Okay? And that's where you're getting that little constant twitch of the rod, little slight jerks. But this technique, guys, is really something these fish haven't seen, especially in my part of the country. I have not seen anybody doing this technique where I'm fishing. I've caught largemouth, smallmouth, sauger, walleye, white bass, spotted bass, you name it. I'm catching it all on these little minnow style baits. And guys, for me, what got me into this before forward facing sonar, and I won't get into the debate if forward facing sonar should be banned, should be not banned, when to use it, when not to use it. Is it good, bad? Is it affecting the bass populations, crappie populations? I don't want to talk about that. I don't use forward facing sonar. But for me, what it was, when I first started getting the Hazadong, and I was getting other little minnow style baits, and I've got some micro flukes at home that are like 2 inches that I've had for years, was I was trying to match the hatch. And by that I mean, where I was fishing tonight, this size bait, this size right here, was what I was seeing in the water. And I literally had my nephew out with me the other night, and we're fishing in the river. And I said, I found a minnow that had been killed, and it was floating right up against the sandbar. And I scooped it up and took it over to him, and I showed him. And I said, this is what the fish are feeding on. And the river that we're fishing is loaded with, smallmouth, white bass, sauger. We were catching mainly, like tonight, I was mainly catching white bass and sauger. But I showed him that little minnow, and that little dude's, this big. My baits that I'm using at 3 inch are just slightly, probably about a 1/2 inch bigger than that. But I told him, I said, look at this bait fish that we found dead, and look at the lures I'm using. If you gotta match the hatch. You don't want to be throwing baits this big, catching fish when the bait fish are this big. There's a whole other concept to that where you go big, go small, and I'm not saying you can't be catching bass and white bass or striper or whatever you're fishing for with a 7/8 inch swim bait, glide bait. You can, but that's actively targeting giant fish. When I'm out trying to catch these numbers, and I go out here and I catch 50 white bass because I get on a school of them, I catch them all in these little minnows, it's because I'm using a little minnow. Even if I'm throwing a little crankbait, I'm throwing small crankbait. I'm throwing small, everything's downsized small spinnerbaits, small chatterbaits. I use the chatterbait mini. I use the flashback, or I think it's the flashback mini, whatever that little unskirted chatterbait is. It's about matching that hatch. These fish are feeding on bait this big, so we're trying to mimic that, and that's what got me into this whole technique. Boy, it's been years. We were fishing up on the St. Lawrence River in the 80s and 90s, and we were using similar things, casting them out, just wrecking smallmouth on them. The smallmouth up there hadn't really been fished and actively targeted by bass fishermen. We found a way to catch them, and we're catching them on little curly tail grubs. And even then I'd have a curly tail that the perch would bite the back end off, and I'd have this straight tail, and I was throwing it out there and shaking my rod, and I still catch the smallmouth. We were fishing some other pintail type lures that were made for crappie, like the little slab slayer. As a matter of fact, I think I have one right here I can pull out real quick and show you kind of what we were doing back in the day. And I'm not going to hold us up on this video for 5 minutes searching for it, but here we go. This is from Arky. It's called the Sexy Tail Shad, and we were using crappie baits. Not maybe this size. We were using some that were a little bit bigger. But that's what was catching them, and we were matching a hatch. And to me, that's what it's all about. I'm not buying these lures because of forward-facing sonar. I personally love the fact that all these companies are now coming out with these little minnow-style baits, because it helps me. It helps me get what I want to match the hatch. So thank you for forward-facing sonar for producing or having bait companies produce a lot of baits that I want. So anyway, guys, don't get caught up in this controversy of forward-facing sonar. Yes, no, maybe, good, bad, ugly. It's about the twitch minnow. It's about the jigging minnow. It's about hover strolling and hover rigging and fishing these micro, mini minnow-style baits and really catching fish. Yes, they work on forward-facing sonar. And yes, they show up better because of the signal that's being pinged back off of the bait. Yes, they'll help you if you have forward-facing sonar, but it's not needed at all. I'm here to tell you, I don't own a boat. I don't have a graph. I don't have anything. I just pick up that style bait because that's what's been working. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to let you know, forget the controversy. It's around these baits, and I really think that's what a lot of people have kind of looked at and stopped to think about the bait itself and the technique itself and what you can actually do with them. Again, there's that little knockoff drift fry on a little ball head that I really skin hook, and hey, I caught the fish on it tonight. If you're not going to get on this technique, you're going to get left behind, and when you get left behind, you're going to wonder why you never caught on to it. But real quick, before we end this video, a couple ways that you want to do this. Rig it. You're going to, like a ball head or a regular jig, I think, is it Owner? I think Owner has out what they call the range roller. And there's several different good jig heads out there, guys. But those you want to rig through the head of the bait. But what I do is I put that ball head up on top, and I really, and you can probably see that hook in that because it's clear. You see how offset that is? That's key. That gets that bait to really rock, and that's what you want. If you're using the Core Tackle hover rig or a 90-degree bend hook or a 90-degree line tie hook and a nail weight, you definitely come in, and I usually go in right behind the eye. I go down and I want that weight and that on that to be real center, and I try to skin hook that as well. And then I try to offset that weight so the weight is more on the top of the bait, so I can continue to get that roll. Guys, that roll is critical. You'll be amazed how many more fish you catch when you can figure out how to get that bait to roll. That rocking and rolling type motion, you know, and it's just a simple little wrist flick. But a big thing with that too, guys, is if you're going to try this, you need that fast action or very fast action rod, or you're going to wear yourself out after shaking that rod, because you're shaking that rod and reeling it. If you've ever fished a fluke or a jerk bait, you can use that kind of technique too, but you don't want that real hard rip. When I fish a jerk bait, a lot of times I rip that bait a lot, but you can use this little wrist snaps to get that action out of it. So guys, again, I apologize for not having out the videos, and I just wanted to cover this technique again and kind of clear the air on that. Don't worry about the controversy about forward-facing sonar. Get out there with you some minnow-style baits and some jig heads, and start catching these fish while this technique is new and the bass haven't really seen them, or whatever species of fish you're targeting haven't seen. Because I tell you, I go to some ponds, and you know, they're real big-sized ponds, and everybody's throwing a wacky rig. Yeah, they're catching them, but I come right behind them, and I'm picking off the other bass that they've left behind on these little minnow style baits because of something these bass haven't seen. And nobody, and I mean nobody that I have seen personally in my area is using this style of bait and this type of presentation. It is super finessey, but it definitely works, guys. Again, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully here in a couple of weeks I'll get moved into the new tackle room, kind of get it set up, and I can go over some more videos. I'm also going to be looking at some different things to maybe be able to take you guys out on the water with me, or at least figure out a way that I can kind of demo some more of this kind of like lure presentation and stuff better for you guys. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't subscribed, which it looks like about 92% of you that watch my videos haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Please smash that thumbs up. Give me a share, comment, give me some suggestions on what else you'd like to see. Happy fishing, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.